onto the internet here. So welcome back. And it is Wednesday evening. I'm here in the office. I'm going to work on some alerts, sound alerts for the Rockbot right now. But I got back into the office here. Markets are higher, and I kind of discussed my travels back here, which was interesting. I'm not going to go over those again. But what I am going to go over is stepping back into the market here and seeing that little divergence here. The market's up 5. When we see these levels, and I have to get back on track. I mean, to be honest with you, I started this conversation before and I was rolling, and now I'm trying to get it back going again, and I just got to pick up where I left off. But I wanted to save some of these thoughts. So I'm back here live on the video and just a recording going into tomorrow. I'm going to do a lot of things on this little video. I'm going to try to send it out before 11 o'clock and let you be able to, not too long, so I'm going to edit it as I go. I'm only going to push the record button when I feel like there is something worth recording. But right now, I see the market is dropping down, and we were here earlier when we had this pop, and we didn't know what really caused that. I did tweet out some things, and then we just kind of hung out there, and then we dropped down, and I went to lunch, and I came back, and now we're really starting to sell off. And this almost looks like a news event because the volume has picked up. You can see the volume on the really spiking high here. I'm looking on my Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Suga says it's important to cooperate with South Korea when needed. There's again Asian news being released right now, and I'm sorry my mic is off. And that reminds me, I went out and got sushi today, and I was discussing with Yumi, the owner, what was going on in Hong Kong. I was kind of feeling them out, and then the lady, the little waitress there, stepped forward. She had more to say about Yumi. Yumi didn't really know what the hell I was talking about. And this girl came up and she goes, "I'm from Hong Kong." And she kind of gave me some feedback the best she could. I mean, when you go to a traditional Japanese restaurant, you're lucky if they put together a sentence. That's how I determine that the restaurant is legit or not. She could put together a sentence, but you could definitely tell that she is not born on the land. The the other thing is that she was very outspoken about the Hong Kong thing. She says it doesn't mean anything. People were fighting, but they realized that they said it's not going to help. Legally it's, and I was trying to follow along, and I was explaining to her. I said, you probably know a lot more about this, and me, I'm still learning. I'm trying to follow it day by day and learn more about. I don't even know what the real, the situation was that caused all this, and she explained it to me, and I got up to date and stuff. But it's one of those things that I just didn't fit into my schedule. I was on vacation and stuff, so I didn't catch this as much as the most. So I'm not up to par on the whole China. I know there's riots and unrest happening. The market is selling off here, though. The market is selling off right now, and that's, it's going into today's market. I had this kind of bearish outlook on the market going into the Jackson Hole. I figured that maybe the market might put a little pressure on JPAL going into what happens if the market is selling off. Does it automatically want to sell off, and then we come to a point which is an inflection point in the market? But it all depends on. Hold on, my mic went. It all depends. My mic died there. It all depends on what JPAL says, so it becomes a big, big event. It's almost like it's the powers that be are setting it up. It was like if there was the gods on Olympus, they would be, making all this happen, making the drama all work out, so it's a perfectly set up drama case, But we know that's not happening. But there is kind of a weird scenario playing out here. If the market does sell off before the Jackson Hole and everyone's paying attention to Jackson Hole, that's one of the reasons I am currently hedged to the downside a little. I did take some profits yesterday on a drop, but I held on to half of them, and so a downside move would not be a destructive move on my account as much as it would be if I didn't have those. And that's what I was worried about. I'm worried about some type of news that affects this market. It's just that's the thing that is overhanging
Trade
us right now.
and Q oversold.
Now I want to start the video back up because again I'm starting to spew good stuff here. We're talking about the market selling off here now and kind of going to bounce. And I just explained for the first time ever live the difference between the original gangster setup and a divergent setup. Now it is breaking down further. We did have potential news out here. I'm not, I'm not an Octo, whatever that guy, Spiderweb's main arch enemy, with multiple hands, and I'm checking all the news feeds and stuff. I was before, but what gave me a clue that there might be news here is just the volume. There is some volume there. We are dealing with Asian market. Asian markets are open, and we have Taiwan effect, and we're always watching for something to the downside. I'm kind of negative on the on tomorrow anyway, just because of the Jackson Hole, but we'll see. I almost thought about it today. I said, well, I had an opportunity to take everything off the table today with a nice profit. I mean, the Vera was a big move up. I have a lot of shares of that. I had everything else was up. We did take some profits on Boeing, but I still felt like Boeing down here at 341 is probably pretty cheap.
Tradometer ES oversold.
It's just that the market doesn't care what you think, and the news is really from one day to the next. Yes, I believe long term this market's going to be higher, and that's all that really matters. The tighter you bring your time frame, the harder it is to trade. So we're trying to profit more on each of the individual moves versus the big long-term move. So that's what you have the option of doing right now. Oh, Pixie's in the house. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. All right, so this is where we are right now. It did take out the stop on the original gangster. Now, the original gangster formula has not been adjusted on the stops. I will adjust that because the volatility over the last 6 months has increased on average. Not currently, it's been going down, but there was a nice spike in volume and the big ranges of 800-point days and stuff. So we're talking about not even about the volume, but more about the range. And when you have a bigger range, you got to extend that, and you have to take that into consideration, and that's something I have to really monitor with the bots. So as in that testing purpose, that will always do that. I didn't adjust the signals today on that. Still does set up though. Let's see here. You can see this 44 indicator here is holding that 20. Yeah, I'm just not buying it. I wouldn't. It would have to prove itself. It would have to give us a pure divergence. Here was a pure divergence over here, right here. That was a pure divergence. You could measure that out pretty good. I mean, even though it came down a little under the 20, there was definitely a slope between the low and the higher low and the low and the lower low. And from that point on, you had a bias to the upside. That's what we're waiting for here. It almost looks like it's trying to happen here. It does have that potential. On the 9.3 here, it does not. The 14.3 actually does, but I'm not seeing on the 44 or the 60.10. The small little micro wedge, we might be over analyzing this, for this time of the night and stuff. It's probably not even worth it, but it's just like practice makes perfect. And if you're a tradeaholic, like I mentioned before, like me, you'll take whatever you can. I see patterns. I see stock patterns at the ice cream shop. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. If you understood what I'm talking about, then you truly are and deserve to be part of Day Trading Radio. I forgot to switch. All right, let me switch over here. Sorry. But you know why? Actually, I was recording that. I didn't even think about it. But here, this is what I'm looking at right here. So we're looking at this. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the chat room. I was doing the recording and stuff. All right, so let's barrel through this. So a couple stocks, and I'll get this out. I have other things to take care of. I was going to make an audio alert tonight for the bull flag alert, and we have the original gangster. We have the buy divergence. I need the bull flag audio, and I need some audio alerts. So I'll be working on that in a few minutes. Just going out for tomorrow fast. Let's get to the good part. Everyone wants to know what are we looking at tomorrow. Well, it's the day before the Jackson Hole, right? It's not going to be the most easiest. Looking for a trade might just be not the best technique, so to speak. Probably tomorrow is a good day to sit back, wait for the setups to just smack you in the face. I'm not even talking about, anything more than really coming out and smacking you in the face. I mean, I don't want anybody chasing. It's going to be volatile. We're going into a news-based day on Friday, and that's going to be wild. I do believe that we will react to that. But if we were to look at some things, I love the Comcast here. Let me get my charts out here. Let me see. See, what was that Comcast? I see what is it? I always mess it. One of those COM. There it is. CMCSA. I always invert those or do something. Look at this. The danger here is it is extended here. All right, it is definitely extended. And if we just go back and we say, all right, Johnny, let's be logical about this. Let's be good on that. It's definitely above the 20 line. What happened the last time this was above the 20 line? That's the problem with sometimes the markets. We try to, or we might be smoking the hopium too much. And hopium is the worst thing next to opium. Let me see if I can show you why. I have to try to figure out what. Let me see here. There we go. I don't know which one it is. Oh, there it is. All right. Anyway, oversold level to overbought level. We're talking about just looking at the 9.3 and the 14.3. Seeing that they're both set up, usually, most likely, why things work the way they work, and we understand divergences like we understand everything. That is our go-to. So it's easy enough to call out a good trade, but to trade inside that time frame where we're waiting for a good trade is more difficult. We tend to kind of stretch the boundaries, and what I like to look for, even though we are very close to all-time highs here, and I believe in the stock. We have a consolidation, but we are oversold on the daily. Now the daily here, last time it was oversold up here, it did move a little bit higher before turning over and coming back down. The same thing here, moved a little higher before coming back down. This was a double top divergence, a very clear one right here. But then rotated back down, got oversold, pushed back up. Back here, we also had this situation where we got overbought and then started turning back down before pushing higher and being really embedded. So we're at a situation here that the odds are that we're going to get a pullback here. We're probably going to get a pullback here. And I kind of just did. I have, I really want to try and take a good position in this, but it would go against certain things that I believe in. And one of them is the, just understanding where the momentum comes from and how it's approaching. And I used to, in the 90s, actually, trade differently. I'd be excited about a breakout and buy before a breakout, expecting a breakout. But that's what the market was giving you. That's why people, were able to come up with their trade techniques and stuff, the breakouts and stuff, and that became very famous back then, the 80s and 90s, and then things started changing. The market started adjusting. That no longer worked. Some new indicators come to light. The history of the divergence starts to prove itself, and it makes a lot of sense. So I've, became a full-time, learner of it, and then a practitioner of using this indicator. And we see it, when you can start to see something and understand how well it works, you have to start believing on it, right? Sometimes there is a disconnect, but usually if you see a divergence, a high and a lower high and a high and a higher high. I think there was one here. Look at that. That was a textbook one. It really pointed out the really big pullback here. Any other time, there's something here. Double top. I already mentioned that one. Double top is just as good as a divergence as a pure divergence, which will have a higher second high, a higher high versus the lower high on the stochastics. But if you have a double top, it is just as good and it's just as strong as an indicator. In some cases, I find it even a stronger indicator. But this is what you're looking for. If you are having a double top on your price point here, then you should have a double top on your stochastic point, and it's very obvious to see you do not. And from that point on, it's down. So we know our go-to trades. Sometimes we're going to be talking about other trades now. Just mentioning why I like this. I kind of want to be part of this. I'm skeptical because of the daily, but I'm also bullish because of the overall pattern, and it looks pretty good. So that is on the watch list. We might jump on that pretty good. The Luckton is very interesting to me. I think this might be one of those great trades if we could actually time it right. Because right now I should buy some stock in this. I'm only dealing with the options on it. So, I'll
Order
probably
submitted.
watch tomorrow.
1 minute original gangster buy signal.
All right, so I'm going to probably end
Order
up...
filled. Order submitted.
What the hell is all that stuff? Order filled. All right, so order filled. So I picked up 2 contracts. The bot picked up 2 contracts at that level on the original gangster. And again, we're going to be talking about that. I'm not going to go to that. Just the background thing. So anyway, getting back to the Luckton coffee, we really need to just continue to see volume coming into this and basically the trend change. We have a big day and a higher high and a higher low and start to see momentum flow back in here. I mean, we're set here. We start to move back up. I mean, I'm betting on that right now. I think longer term, I think Luckton's going to be in play. It's a pullback here right now. Got back into it. It seems to be trying to work its way higher. I'm happy with it. Nothing I'm not happy with. Here's a couple cheap ones that are dangerous to get into because they've been so weak. KHC, which I started position in today. Just because it gapped down, bad news again. It pulled back, 5 to 7 day pullback, tried to bounce, failed, gapped down, but it's holding up here. So if we actually reverse here tomorrow, that would actually kind of leave and even if we gapped up here, say we gapped up tomorrow for some whatever reason, that would leave a small island reversal in the chart because we have this kind of a gap down. Now you could also be looking at this being a gap, island reversal gap down and a sell. Well, you know what? That happens. That points out tops and bottoms. This island reversal here, or that gap up and then the gap down, I can't even really qualify that, but if you thought it was one, the one thing I would say, it needs to happen at the top of a trend. It can't happen at the bottom of a trend. It doesn't mean squat. All right. This is even better if we gapped up tomorrow on this. We would leave this big island reversal because I do believe there is a gap between the low here and the open here, and we would need to set that up. So, if that happens tomorrow, you know what? I will definitely add double down on my position. But it needs to happen. I mean, that's like throwing a dart blindfolded at a donkey. If that comes true tomorrow, we gap up. That's a great signal, and I would be all over it. All right, you gotta get that straight right now. But the odds of that happening are probably one. How would I express the odds there? The odds of that happening would be less than 20%. Less than 20%. Pixie's uploading the Vixie video. Yeah, she's always busy with our other group. All right, so next, Medtronics, we did take profits on that out of it totally, and I expected to go higher. I was hoping maybe doing the right thing, just getting out, maybe getting a little pullback, but I don't think this is really pulling back. So I would consider getting back into this tomorrow. MDT is going to be on the watch list for tomorrow, so I'm writing that down. MDT again. Well, we have a lot of upgrades out of it today, up to 118. This is going to 110 very fast. today we also got into DPZ. And I got into this was between this one and Papa John's PZZA. And Papa John's definitely outperformed it today. It moved up and consolidated into the close, even though the market was pretty volatile. This held on pretty good. Papa John's had that scandal a while ago, really dropped the stock. It hasn't really been performing at all over the last 3 years. Is there an opportunity here? Well, we have a pretty steep crossover here on this divergence, or not on the excuse me. I'm talking too fast here. Let me get this over here. This is what I call the Nike indicator. You get the check mark. Steeper the check mark, like back here, perfect one. The more aggressive the rally that comes after. Nice steep check mark right there, big rally. Nice steep. This was a very good steep check mark. Nice rally. This one's a little steeper here. Rounded bottom, flat lining. A lot of weakness. Steep crossover. That jump starts the stock. Here it's not as much. It kind of starts to turn up and chops around. Eventually starts to move back up. I mean, if you're underneath that 20 line, you're probably very close to seeing something. And then here, it doesn't take it long to get going, but you probably had a day or two before you started getting a nice move up. Here, back here, a little pop up, but here a very strong Nike check mark. Nike check mark right there. So, I like that. I like the history of this stock. I like being able to read this like a book. There's no doubt me looking at it a little bit more closer today. What did I get? I don't know. DPZ. I got the DPZ. So I got to pick up this Papa John's, I think. And the reason I got into the Domino's, and both of these have some merit on their own. Both of these have been, the thing I liked about Domino's is it has a lot of positive analyst coverage. At least it used to. I've heard about the turnaround. I mentioned it. I remember back in Domino days when this thing was a piece of crap. And then all of a sudden they changed. And from that point on, it's been just rallying. So this is a pretty decent pullback. And the pullback is set up as an HPS playbook play. An HPS playbook play, if you're a member of Day Trading Radio, you have access to all the playbook trades. This is what we call a coil stochastic channel breakout, I should say. And a channel could represent a falling wedge pattern also. This is not the perfect falling wedge pattern. I wouldn't put too much into it. But the one thing is that we had a failure of it. We got back into it. We talk about this pattern as a good underlying indicator on a set of, the chart here. We talk about divergences with the momentum indicator. So typically we get a move down on the momentum. We get the move. We see
Order
that in the stock
Order
price.
Filled.
We get a little
Order
move.
canceled.
We get a little move up. We see that in the stochastics. We get a little move down. We start to see that momentum, and momentum leads to more momentum. So when we have a trend starting, we're able to identify that with our stochastic, or even with just the candles making higher lows. You have a couple days to trade that. Now, over time, I've done a lot of analysis in the markets, trading back in the early 90s. One pattern I come across is finding the stochastics, when they coil up, if there is an underlying channel to it, usually a channel, if I take this line and I make a parallel trend line here, I could drop it here, and this would be considered my channel. If I could find a coiled stochastic, and the coiled stochastic for me is something I kind of invented, or I kind of labeled for my own self. I call it a coiled stochastic. It's a series of, it's a rotation down from overbought, which is not really even overbought here. We never even got up to the 80 low, but it's a rotation down where we make a series of lower lows. The lows on it doesn't have to be anything. They're typically going to be underneath the 20 line, and you're not going to be able to really measure that out. Sometimes you could put in, sometimes you can, and I think in this case you actually can, maybe sometimes put in a trend on the lower ones. But I don't pay attention. I pay attention to the top ones here. So, all right, so you have the 3 low, and on the fourth one, the underlying channel on the top trend line is the important trend line. We're looking at a typical breakout of this pattern, meaning When this breaks above, the momentum here starts to shift, and we start to make a higher high on the stochastics, or just a break of the trend line. This is usually seen on a chart of a breakout of the trend. So that's what I liked about this. And then I liked that we actually had a reversal candle here. So I took that one instead. But I'd like them both here. And I think I'm going to get into some pizza tomorrow. So just an update on that. We had some better action on Veru today. And, technically speaking, I came in today, defending the stock, saying, hey, this is the 50% retracement from the May low to the recent high here, 250. And really, basically, that was the 180 level. And we ticked it perfectly. And from that point, we moved up. So Veru, even for a cheap stock, is turning out to be a very good technically tradable stock with good trend lines and channels and everything that I like to trade, stochastics. So this was a decent pullback. You had the 200 period moving average indicator. We have a lower trend line of a 1, 2, 3 pattern. We have the oversold stochastic. This ended up being an HPS zone. Remember, 3 out of 5 indicators need to line up. So we have the oversold stochastics, big foundation indicator. We have identified a decent pattern. We have a circle here. Let me see. Let me give you a better view of this, and then I want to shut this video off and get home. But you had a test here. You had a pivot area here. You had a pivot area here. You had a pivot area here. Once you have like 3 pivot areas, you draw that trend line. This was a top of that candle. This was here. That was easy enough to draw the top one. And if you notice, we tested it here. That really confirmed that trend line. So when you get a pop from it, the true test of that is it has to close above the trend line. The majority of the time, and you heard me say it hundreds of times on the station, if we break down out of a lower trend line or a really good support or break out of a resistance area, it really depends on where the price closes at. If it closes above that trend line or below it, depending on what you're looking at, it still holds true. That's an important indicator. So that closed on the tick on that trend line. You're able to just map out a parallel trend line underneath the lower level there and extend that. And now you have a good level to work off of. And now when that level, let me get rid of that. And when that level ends up crossing or dissecting or, I'm just trying to, I want to put this out longer. I thought I could edit it. Maybe I didn't push the right button. Edit. There it is, extend right. So I'm just going to put that out there for tomorrow. I'll let that thing. So we came down to that trend line. We actually had the 200 period moving average. You have a huge candle, and we were oversold. There was a lot of indicators pointing to a pop here, and it was a 50% retracement on the Fibonacci, which if anything, one of the indicators I do not use but would use, and I would definitely promote it, is using the Fibonacci's with stochastics. Again, everything works if it all lines up, and this was a perfect lineup of a 50% retracement of the low to the high. That everything lined up here. Lower trend line, 200 period moving average, 50% retracement, oversold stochastics. I mean, that's what we look for. So, I mean, yeah, I'm happy that popped today. If I had more, it would have been a good trade if I would have doubled down. I mean, it really is a situation where you have to, sometimes we're skeptical of those cheaper stocks at that level. But if you start to find one that works with technical analysis or certain patterns and stuff, you got to stick with it. And you got to step up to the plate, take the bat off your shoulder and swing. I have enough shares of this. I'm not going to swing anymore. I'm letting this thing play out. But I considered it. I looked back at it and said, "Stupid, Johnny, man." But that's always going to be a trader's point of view, right? Anyway, like I said, I want to get this video out. Hope you gained some knowledge from this video. We'll be broadcasting live. It should be an exciting day tomorrow. Friday is going to be the FOMC. Oh, I keep on saying FOMC. It's going to be the Jackson Hole Neverland Ranch statement. I know that just killed it, right? It's killed the video. You're doing so good, Johnny, until you had to go there. I'm sorry. I want to leave you with that. Good night, everyone. I'll see you in the markets. It is Thursday. I'll see you for Thursday. I'll see you Thursday and Friday. No, I won't. I'll be in the room Friday. Paul will be covering, but I'm not on vacation. Market is bounced. We're flat as it is. Good luck. See you in the morning.